Rich Bisaccia is not going to be the coach of the Raiders. Obviously, if you don't remember, he was the interim head coach when John Gruden was fired. Now he's all signs are pointing to him going elsewhere. And he had just the absolute adoration of the locker room, almost universally. Never heard a bad thing said about him. You heard players constantly talking about how much they cared about him, all these things. And it looks like he gone. According to Ian Rappaport, the Packers are expected to hire former Raiders interim coach Rich Bisaccia as their new special teams coach. The unit was an issue in Green Bay last year, and Coach Matt LaFleur goes a long way toward fixing it. Bisaccia is universally respected.
Oh, yeah.
So Rich Bisaccia, gone.
He gone.
What I'm wondering, did the Raiders do Bisaccia dirty? This is from just a little Q&A that our boy Vic Tafer from The Athletic does on The Athletic. And one of the questions was, I saw someone mention elsewhere that Bisaccia and company felt like they had been screwed over in not getting the chance to lead the team next season and weren't happy campers. Any truth to that, or just internet tabloid material? Vic Tafer responded, they weren't happy. They feel that if Gruden were the coach all season and the Raiders went 10-7 and made the playoffs, there would be no question the whole staff would be back. And they did it after the Gruden scandal and the Henry Ruggs tragedy. So I asked you, Soto, did Mark Davis and the Raiders screw over Rich Bisaccia?
I don't think so. That's
No?
a big if. You have to look.
Which one's the big if?
If Gruden was the coach.
Oh, okay.
Because Gruden was the one leading the whole thing. It was like he was the leader of the whole entire thing. Who was making all the decisions. Now that he's gone, it's like, okay, well, who was the one making the decisions now? Now you don't know who's making the decisions. Mm-hmm. The person that that built the entire thing is gone. So who's the one that's going to lead the ship? None of those people were hired as decision makers. It's easy to say, well, we won 10 games, you said micro, macro. In the micro, yes, we're winning games. That's great. Fine. Okay. In the front office, they have to think long term. How are these decisions going to be long term for us? How are these going to translate for us winning games down the line in the future? How is Bisaccia's style going to help us down the line? He's winning games now, yes, and I told you, like he's we say this at the gym. If the first thing you say about a fighter is, oh yeah, he's gritty, he's tough. If that's the first thing you say about a fighter, that fighter's taking a lot of ass beatings. Mm-hmm. Even if he wins, he's taking a lot of ass kickings, and that's not the first thing you want to say about a fighter.
Sure.
And if the first thing you say about a team is, oh man, they're gritty, they grind into the very end, they're in a lot of close fucking games, and it's good in in the micro. It's good for a season, but it's like if you're not pulling away from teams, you're not blowing some teams out here and there. It's like, yeah, it's cool to have close games, but like you can't sustain that. The ball's going to go the other way sometimes,
Season point differential is like one of the rare stats that's like really, really good on telling how a team is, right? Like
we were under,
and we're bad, right?
Minus 65 or something like that.
Yeah, but a couple things with that. For one, like those stats are like super skewed because the Chiefs kicked our dicks in twice and like drastically altered it, right? So like again, you can't just like ignore those teams, but like that was unique, right? That wasn't the case most of the time.
You take those away, we were still under like 4 or 5. We're still underneath.
It was you're drifting around 500. But then in close games, all the overtimes, we went undefeated in overtime, all the close games, all last second wins, I would credit that with coaching more than any specific thing. Like that's, I think, where coaching should get some of the credit, is winning those really close games. Like
in the
blowouts,
micro, yes.
You've got super good players, right? But to be able to like get past those humps and like have the team not stop believing. I'm not trying to recite Journey songs here, but this is just like the direction I'm going.
Yeah.
Like I feel like and again, I'm not saying it's all Bisaccia's credit. I'm not saying it's all Derek Carr. I'm not trying to put the credit on anybody. But speaking it with, painting with broad strokes, getting your team in the high pressure situations and winning, that's generally what a coach should get credit for. That's generally good coaching that does it.
In the micro, yes. But again, in the macro, in the long term, that's not, you want to be good teams. Don't they don't have that many games where they win in overtime or they win in the last second, like so many fucking times, you know. And you take a look at some other things. You take a look at how often did he change a game plan in the second half? Like they just did the same shit. Whether they just kept grinding and doing the same thing, like offensively and defensively, whether they were successful with it or they weren't. And it's like those things. Like look at what happened in when we were 12-win team one year, and the next year we got 1-4 or whatever. It's like yo man, like we had a lot of close games that we ended up pulling out, and the next year like it just evened out, man.
But that's even more to my point is we were the less talented team most of the time, right? Especially like those really hard games, right? That Chargers win, that Colts win. Like we were less talented than these teams and we still won. So I think that's another part of it too, is like, yeah, like good teams blow out bad teams. We didn't. Good teams consistently beat decent teams. We didn't. And good teams every now and then beat great teams, which we did. So I think that's the other part too, is like, yes, I would love consistency. I'd love to be able to just destroy the Broncos when we play them, destroy the Giants when we play them. Like, okay, like those are easy wins. Like, let's, don't take them lightly, right? But we should be able to like, all right, it's going to blow out every now and then. And we didn't. But we got to remember, like we were such an untalented team compared to the upper echelon teams that we played and beat. I think that has got to be added into the equation. And who gets the credit for us beating these teams that are clearly more talented than us? Normally, it's the coach. Normally, that's the X factor. When you look at your roster's better than our roster, the next thing that's most important is the coach. So, I said all these great things about Bisaccia, and I've been arguing for these last several minutes. I still feel like they made the right move. I still feel like Bisaccia, he wasn't a guy that could take over an offense or take over a defense. He was beloved.
It's about projection. You're projecting the future. You're projecting
how are you going to do in the future, right?
What's your ceiling?
And normally it's like, all right, what's the best thing to project how you're going to do in the future? What are your achievements in the past? And he gave us the second best season of the last 20 years in the Raiders, that is a fact, right? Again, still like the move. But I feel like Rich Bisaccia, what he accomplished is getting constantly understated. Like being able to take this team to the playoffs with everything that they went through and not having that locker room fall apart, not having the players, get distracted, fall apart, blame each other. Like none of that happened. It happened in so many NFL rosters and locker rooms, not in the Raider locker room. So I don't think the Raiders screwed Bisaccia. I think they made I think they're going to say like, all right, who's going to give us the best chances to win a Super Bowl moving forward? And Mark Davis, I think it's Mick Ziegler. Okay. But what Bisaccia did this season, it was something special, something really special. And I'm kind of surprised he didn't get picked up as a head coach somewhere.
I'm not. I think that the league saw what I said. I think that it was a lot of close games. I think that it just, Lady Luck was on our side on a lot of them. I think that we play with a lot of heart and a lot of passion, and passion is great in the micro. In the macro, passion doesn't win you games. It's talent, and talent isn't just on the field. Talent is off the field as well. I didn't see that he showed a lot of talent coaching wise. Mm-hmm. Rah you can't rah doesn't translate on it in X's and O's, and I think that was an issue that he had.
So if you don't think Derek Carr's the guy and you didn't think Rich Bisaccia is the guy, how do we get to 10 wins this season?
I didn't say that. There's a lot to be said for catching teams off guard. There's a lot to be said for
caught teams off guard 4 games in a row.
Okay. Yeah, I mean there's a lot of factors, man. There's a lot of factors. Look, the Colts team that we beat also took a shit the next week against the fucking Jags. Mm-hmm. All right.
Why? Because we put our fucking feet on their throat, ripped their heart out, second to last game of the season, held it in front of them before they died, and then they limped into Jacksonville.
If that's the narrative you want to write, that's
because of the curb stomping that we put on them.
Sure. I mean, there's a lot of reasons why. I think that I'm not discounting what we did. I think that a lot of people stepped up when they needed to. I think we hit our stride when we needed to, and we rode what talent we did have, and I think this things fell our way, man. We had the ball last
You
when we
literally
needed
just
it.
described a well-coached team. I'm just saying. Like again, I'm genuinely curious, Soto. I'm not like it sounds like I'm trying to like pick on you. I'm genuinely curious why you think Rich Bisaccia isn't head coach material. And you haven't given me an answer. You just kind of said like, well, I don't think he's the guy. Because when we try to give credit to how this team got to 10 wins, you basically describing all the intangibles that a good head coach brings to a team. And so I'm not trying to like get you to contradict yourself. I genuinely want you to tell me why you think Rich Bisaccia isn't head coach material.
I genuinely do think that John Gruden laid a good plan for this team, and it was kind of like a set it and forget it.
He executed it,
and Bisaccia executed what was there. Now the issue
that's a very fair statement.
The issues that I saw with Gruden not there was especially offensively with some of the lack of adjustments made in second halves. We didn't look great in some of the, like, let's say, for example, like as an example, like in the second half of the Giants game, we didn't do anything any different. The same crap that they were doing to us in the first half was the same crap they were doing to us in the second half, and we didn't do any better, right? So Carr knew the offense already, and Carr is just like having a head coach on the field, okay? And Olsen knew the offense already, and it's like, okay, we said it before. It's like, okay, you don't really need Gruden to implement an offense because Olsen and Carr have already been together for a few years already in the offense. They can run the offensive game plan. Gruden didn't really fucking fuck with the defense anyway, so Bradley had the defense anyway. So that's it. Like, it's like the offense was taken care of. The defense was taken care of. All Bisaccia did was making sure that everyone was okay. He just kind of ran the game time decision making, basically.
See, I've spent the last 20 minutes trying to get you to say that, because this is what we literally said, both of us, about 3/4 of the way through the season when Rich Bisaccia, like before that losing streak, before we got to 5-6, when we were like 5-2 or whatever, like won those 2 games. That's literally what we said was Rich Bisaccia is the perfect guy because he's not going to come in and change the color of the curtains and redo the offense in his image. He's not going to, that's what we both said, right? He's not going to like try to like turn this team into his team. He's like, all right, the ball's rolling. Let me maintain it. But he was also the perfect guy for making sure that all this controversy, all this tragedy, all this turnover, all the bad things that happened, he kept his team on the straight and narrow and had them fight for each other, had them fight together, and really like made sure like we can keep this team that's been through like literally the worst season in NFL history and keep them together. Because this is exactly what we said 13 weeks ago, right?
So let me ask you, what changes did you see Bisaccia making? Do you see them bringing back the same crew?
It's a great question. I wonder, because he's been in the league so long that he's got connections all over the place, right? He could have picked up OCs and DCs all over the place. I'm sure he had in the back of his mind guys that he wanted. What I really truly wonder is if we would have won that very first playoff game, right? When we were literally one pass away from beating the team that went to the Super Bowl, right? Mm-hmm. What would have happened then?
Mm-hmm.
What would have happened then? Do you disassemble a team that won their wild card game or maybe more, like whatever, right? Like, I wonder if Mayock keeps his job. I wonder if Bisaccia keeps his job. And if they do they keep Olsen? Do they keep Brad? Like, that to me is the big what if. They would have won if that one pass would have gotten into a touchdown, right? If Zay would have ran just in the end zone a little better route and Derek threw the ball a little better and we win in overtime like we always do, then what?
Well, let me ask you this.
What ifs?
Look, let me ask you this. You don't have John Gruden tweaking the offense for next year. You run the same shit that everyone has tape on.
I would have hoped.
How do you do?
I would have hoped that Bisaccia would have, and Mayock or whoever's the GM, you move Olsen to quarterbacks coach, and you get yourself a guy from like the Gruden McVay offensive coaching tree. Like that would have been the perfect move.
Mm-hmm.
I feel, because I don't think Olsen like planned on calling. Like he didn't plan on calling plays this season. He didn't plan on being a true offensive coordinator.
Mm-hmm.
He was there to like hold Gruden's playbook, right? Like that's
laugh at his jokes,
right. Like that's what he was there for.